I loved our birth. It was really ours. Ava was born a baby. I was born her mother. We went through the birth portal together as a team. It was my exact vision that I worked hard at every day. She was in my belly. She arrived in the water without any intervention and with so much power. It was real, it was raw, it was magical. I started to have cramps. It was around like 9 a.m. on New Year's Eve. I took a shower and I even shaved my legs. So the cramps started becoming contractions, and I was demanding that they were called waves and not contractions, because the word felt like an itchy sweater, sort of. So waves. I was shouting that to Nick while I was in the shower so he could log them into his little app, because my husband back away. And I was like peeking my head out of the shower curtain, being like, wave, wave. And finally, by the time I got out of the shower, I was fully in labor. I mean, fully. Nick put lotion on me, skincare, very important to me. And I was just sort of starfished on the bed, and I was like, lotion, please. So he lotioned me up, being a sweetheart that he is. Apparently skincare, even during labor, very important. He made me a little like labor nest on the floor, a quilt, a yoga ball, some of the lemons that Marissa had here at the Lemon Grove, just like scattered all over so I could squeeze those. So as I'm kind of like in my little bird nest, Nick's calling Marissa, he's updating her on the wave patterns, not contractions, waves. Finally it was time, and ironically it was the exact time we were due at the birth cottage in Salem, New Hampshire for our 39-week appointment, like to the minute. Basically we were like, we'll see you at 3 p.m., which was already in all of our calendars. So Ava, our daughter, is truly a Capricorn queen, sun and moon. So I had a big contraction as I'm coming down the stairs to get into the car. And I'm like riding the levels of the stairs with these like deep groans. My whole family was around. I've been staying with my mom and dad and my brother, because we have an apartment in Brooklyn, New York, and we're on the 6th floor and the elevator goes down a lot. So we chose to come here for birth with our cars rather than subways and taxis. And so anyways, my whole family's downstairs in the living room. I'm like sounding like a dying elk on the stairs, like going down each step. So just to give you a visual there. I finally get in the car. I'd seen on Instagram someone had said like, get one of those donut seat cushions, like one of the like office seat cushions, because it really helps. So I was feeling real good on that with all the, like the pressure, sort of going down, down, down. So I'm on my little donut and I'm cracking, it's January, not January, almost January, December. I'm cracking the windows, and then I'm like, I can't stand the silence. I'm a music publicist, so like I always have music playing. So I grab Nick's phone, I start playing Jurassic 5, who I haven't listened to since I was like in high school. I was like, I need old school hip hop now. So that made him laugh and it broke the silence. So I'm like hanging outside the window pretty much, like huffing and puffing, like just like rapping under my breath. Anyways, that helped a lot. So we get there, we're at the birth center, team's in place. Marissa is like in the parking lot already waiting for us. I start laboring in the room, I'm laboring on the bed, I'm laboring on the toilet, I'm laboring on the, everywhere, just all over that room. And I'm eyeing that Japanese soaking bath and like, yes, this is what I want. So finally I get in. At this point I can barely talk because I had been practicing hypnobirthing. So I'm meditating my ass off. I'm like speaking in grunts, so it was like cavewoman style. And later I found out actually I was in back labor because Marissa was giving me these compressions, and every time she did it, I'd be like, oh yeah, it's like the best feeling in the world. And Nick at this point is just, doing his best to, help out, and he's watching Marissa do these compressions and he's, making me smile. So it was really amazing and really consistent with the help. So the pain was actually manageable. And every time she would give me that instant relief, I just remember being like, thank you. If not out loud in my head. So as we're going through the process of labor, I remember that Adrian, the midwife, had said, if you want to know at any point how far along you are, I'm happy to check for you, but I'm only going to offer this once and then you have to ask me. So finally I was like, I'm going to ask. So how far along am I? She checks me and I'm 7 centimeters. So I'm like, that feels far along. And Marissa says, yeah, you're in transition. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's fire up the tub. Let's get in there. So I get in there. I'm doing my deep inhales, my deep exhales. I'm remembering everything I've practiced and letting like just the universe hold me, all the women in my coven, which is also really cool. Just, letting the universe hold me. I'm deep in the zone, talking like a cave woman to my husband. And I remember Marissa being like, hey, is your family gonna come? And I'm thinking they're already there. So I'm like, okay. So I make a couple grunts at Nick. He translates, he gets them on the way. Everything's good. They end up coming. So I'm in the water, it's so warm. I'm in there for maybe about an hour. Marissa hands me a cough drop and reminds me that it will really help me focus on bearing down if I have the cough drop in my mouth. I'm focusing, and then a wave comes, not a contraction, a wave. And I spit the cough drop out across the room like projectile, like it must have gone 15 feet. So we were all cracking up about that. Even afterwards, like, remember when you spit the cough drop across the room? Like, yes, but it did help. It really did. It was a great mechanism for focus. And at this point, Nick's got his hands on the porcelain of the tub so I can rest my head on it. And just out of nowhere, this is nothing we rehearsed or talked about, he just starts making the noises with me. He's like, doing it. He's like, lower. So we just sound like, a family of bears. And I really loved that. It felt very, very connected and like, it's weird when you're making those sounds alone. So if you have a birth partner, that really helps. Marissa's like walking me through these like calm beach visualizations. And I remember her saying during one of them, like, does your body feel like naturally pushing? And until she said it, it was like my brain didn't register that like, it already kind of was. So she was just like, okay, when that happens, bear down. And it was really simple. And like everything she said, it's like when you're in a good yoga class and it's almost like their voice becomes the voice inside your head, where I was just like, okay, you're driving. And Silas, who was the midwife's assistant, she's actually from Brooklyn. She was born on the street where my partner Nick and I have lived for the past almost 15 years. So it was like really kind of weird. Like we found her in Salem, New Hampshire. And like, here's this person who's like from where we love to be. So I hear her go, I see black hair. And at this point, I'm just like, oh boy, here we are. And 2 pushes later, Ava was in my arms and pooping, which Marissa has a really good picture of. And I mean, she wasn't the first to poop in the tub. I also pooped in the tub. So Silas, the midwife's assistant, actually had her first catch because it was sort of like this funny, like Three Stooges almost moment of everyone trying to film it, but they were like, Nick, you're gonna want to see this. They're like, get in here. So he's pulling out his camera to film. Meanwhile, baby's like coming out. So he did not catch the baby like we planned, but it was Silas's first catch, and it was almost like Brooklyn caught her in that way, and that felt really cool. And I just like loved how much she loved it. I think it meant more to her than it did to Nick. So yeah, I really love Kat, and that wasn't unplanned. So yeah, our hearts are all full, and the tub's full of bodily fluids. It's just like, it kind of looks like the universe. It's just all sort of like spirally, and I'm sitting in there, and I had this feeling of like ecstasy. Just like, you can take ayahuasca or mushrooms or acid, it will never give you that feeling of holding your baby for the first time. It is just like something else. And there's this picture that Marissa took of me where, when I posted on Instagram later on, I'm just like in the tub, and people were like, are you in pain or are you happy? And it was like both. It was like, I'm feeling every feeling that the universe could bestow upon me at the same time, and my face was just like, and I just could feel her little heart outside me for the first time. And again, being a music publicist, I had my husband make me 2 playlists. One was like the calm, the like Brian Eno moment, like, we're in the tub, we're like vibing. And then the other one was like go, like the hives, very much like go, go, go. And so he had switched back over to the chill playlist after she was in my arms, and like Fade Into You by Easy Star was playing, like as I'm looking into her eyes for the first time. And just, adding more soup into the tub of just tears. And I just kind of looked at Ava being like, we did it. Like, it was very much a we feeling in my body at that point. It wasn't like, I just did this great thing. It was like, girl, you worked hard too. And all I could say over and over is, I love you so much. And I could feel my heart's energy just like spreading all over my whole body, making like this kind of like orb around us. And I can feel it as I'm reading this. I could feel it as I wrote this. And I actually have chills, and she just lit up my soul. And it was New Year's Eve. So this is all happening, and there's like fireworks outside. So I'm just like, okay, this is really cool. Every woman should get fireworks. I kept thinking like, oh, she's gonna have like a New Year's Eve birthday. She's gonna have fireworks on her birthday every year, and people will be drinking champagne and celebrating, and this is cool. So I'm in the tub. I'm having existential feelings, and it might have been maybe 5 minutes of that, and then my mom comes in, and I'm in the tub holding the baby. Placenta's still in, and she just looks at me and goes, "You're a mom," and it like brought me back into reality of like, whoa, yeah, I just went through this initiation, like I'm a mother now. And it just brought me right back to the tears. And about 16 minutes passed while we waited for the cord, which was in my birth plan. I really wanted to like wait for my cord, wait till it stopped pulsing. I know like usually that's done after like 5 minutes or so, but I waited a whole 16. Nick cut the cord. We got our APGAR. Ava got a 10 out of 10, which I thought was really cool. I don't know if that's like typical in hospitals. My mom was like, they don't give those out. I was like, is this like a participation trophy for being at a birth cottage? I don't know, but I was like, that's cool. Like, she's an overachiever. I love that for her. So my mom was, being really sweet, helping out, like looking at all the measurements, because she's in the medical field, so she's geeking out. And my dad, being my dad, was like, I have to feed you. And I had mentioned, maybe months before the birth, I really wanted sushi, couldn't have it because I was pregnant. But for some reason, after I had her, I just wanted like mozzarella sticks. I wanted like cheese badly, because I had gestational diabetes. So I was like eating really healthy, and I was like, I deserve like a fun meal right now. But it's New Year's Eve, right? Everything's closed. So my dad goes to the pizza place next door, and all they had is pepperoni pizza, and I'm a vegetarian, pescatarian. And so he's like, I failed. So then he drove all around, ended up getting Ralphie's in Salem, New Hampshire. It was amazing. I was sitting on like the bloody bed with like mac and cheese balls and mozzarella sticks, and I was just like on my throne with my baby. It was really amazing. So that was really cool. Called my Nana, who is my person, and told her about everything, and she was so excited because she was like, I was just watching the Wheel of Fortune. And I kept seeing 23s and 29s, and I was like, interesting. And then because 23 was connected to my grandfather and 29 also connected to my grandfather, and she's like, but I also kept seeing 31, which was the date, December 31st. So she calls it a confirmation. She, very Catholic. That's a confirmation. So we had the confirmation. And then I tried breastfeeding, which was a little tricky. I'm 10 months in, and it's still tricky. I had a ton of colostrum that I had saved up, so I kind of like let my shoulders go down a little bit to be like, you know what? She latches, she doesn't. I know I've got some in the freezer. And Adrian, the midwife, kept being like, you'll feel suction and you won't be able to pull her off, and that's how you'll know. So, I was kind of working on that. So then we got to look at what they kept calling the damage, which that was very funny. I had a level 1 tear in my perineum, nothing major. It was kind of like on the side of my labia. For all intents and purposes, I was like wiping the sweat off my brow at that point. Adrian did what they call a mattress stitch on me after putting some lidocaine on. I didn't really feel it. At that point, I was just like legs up in the air. My mom was kind of running around the room. I just was like still in that kind of like la 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 phase. And so they were then doing the fundus massage, which sucked. Where like Silas, the midwife, was like, kind of sponging me off and then pushing on my belly, and you're kind of doing everything at once, which was nice. That kind of shortened all the process, tidbits up, but it was, that whole part was a little bit of a blur. I'm like, I just want to stare at the baby, and we were like sponge bathing me and pressing on my belly. I also did not love giving the second birth to the placenta. That felt really like weird, but worth it. I actually kept my placenta, made art out of it, and made it into pills. Got through some of the pills, the rest of it's buried in my parents' backyard. Under a filament, as one does. Anyways, then came the having to do your first pee. So like, the getting stitched up, birth, everything in front of everyone, totally fine. Still, to this day, I cannot pee in the ocean or pee in front of people. So that was actually like a really hard part for me. Finally, the midwife had to be like, Silas, get out of there. She needs to focus and pee. So I peed, we rejoiced, and then my pulse dropped. And my oxygen got kind of low. It was almost like my body had stopped being in that meditative trance state and like figured out what it had just done. At least like that's kind of how it occurred to me. And like my iron kind of tanked because I was a little bit anemic. So they almost had to transfer me to a hospital. But Silas, even on New Year's Eve, was so cool. And she was like, I'm just going to stay here and be with you so you can rest and not have to like get up and leave. Because typically at the birth cottage, you stay for like maybe 2 hours after birth, 4 hours max, and then you kind of hightail it out of there and you go and rest in your own bed. But my body was like giving me a no. And she kept asking like, are you nervous? And I was like, I'm nervous to leave. Like I'm nervous to get in the car because like my body's telling me no. And Nick, thinking it could be iron, drove home at like 4 a.m. like he was in the Blues Brothers, like one eye open, to get me some vegan chili that was like really iron rich, and brought that back. So after some rest and recuperation and some 4 a.m. chili, I felt much better. My numbers went back up on that little thing they put on your finger. So like staring at the numbers. That and a bunch more fundus massages to get everything out and make sure I wasn't hemorrhaging. Nick's chugging coffee. So like finally I think it was like around 9 a.m. that I decided I think I need my own bed. I'm ready. I was fully stocked back home with, the pads, the witch hazel, the disposable things. Like, it's like you're changing the baby's diaper, you're changing your diaper. It's just a whole situation. But lactation, my daughter has a lip tie and a tongue tie at birth. So we're like, okay, we got those fixed. Still wasn't latching properly. It was a whole situation. I ended up deciding at 3 months after like completely tying my nipples into like chewed up Tootsie Rolls that like it was time to just say I'm going to exclusively pump, because she was drinking out of a bottle. And I was like, okay with that. And now I'm actually kind of thinking that this was going to be the best thing to work for me as a new mom. I still struggle, like if I see another woman breastfeeding, like there's that little part of me that's like, oh, I wish I could have that bond with my daughter. And I wish I had that opportunity, but she's getting my milk, and she's almost 11 months, and she's healthy. So that's all I could really ask for. And I had a really beautiful moment the other day. I was walking around a farm with her, and the song Protector by Beyonce came on, and I listened to that song every day during pregnancy, almost like a prayer, like a blessing, just a moment for us every day to connect when she was in my womb. And I heard it, and it makes me cry instantly. Like thinking like, we did this, we made it through this gauntlet, the whole story. And yet I can still get back to that same feeling of when she was in my belly and she was in my arms for the first time, and the love I had for this being before she even was. And I feel like I have to mention this as part of my birth story. It's not written down here, but it's so important. As I was walking in here and noticing the beautiful mural, I know on Instagram, Marissa had mentioned that the butterflies are for babies that didn't make it into this world in their body form, just their little spirits. And before Ava was born, I had a miscarriage, and when they showed me the placenta for Ava, there was a little, almost like a little clot, like a little piece of an old pregnancy. And the midwife said that probably helped Ava's pregnancy along in feeding her and nourishing her older sibling. And their due date was just a couple weeks ago. So I just walked in here feeling like just so grateful for the baby I had, and that their older sibling kind of helped them into this world. And they're met with butterfly. So I just, these little ones are so precious, whether they're in the spirit world or here. And I think women should talk about it more. And so, I feel like that's a good place to sort of, end the story. The story continues with love. And these babies are loved. Thank you for listening.